more of you guys are here, I'll tell you what we're doing at 1 o'clock, because I have a health fair in the morning. So at 1 o'clock, we're going to meet at Leal's, and we're going to have lunch, and then Nancy will do whatever, Nancy does for getting us ready for treasure hunts. And you never know, it might break out right in the restaurant, we just minister to people there. Or we may, get our clues like we've done before and go out and minister to people. If you've never been on a treasure hunt, it is awesome. So go ahead and, take note of that tomorrow, 1 o'clock at Leal's. And I think that was it, right? So we'll probably do our ministry to people, and then we'll debrief afterwards, which is a lot of fun as well. So, and you can pick any microphone that you want and get it out of its holder and stuff if you want to.
Is that recorded?
Were you able to get it? Okay, yeah, Roberta. She's our scribe. We do it electronically.
Oh, okay, because I need to write it down. That was too much. You guys are awesome on the guitar.
That must be the Holy Ghost.
That was so good. Remind me of David just strumming on the guitar.
It's just nice to get the flow of the Holy Spirit. Follow so we could do.
Have you seen that Holy Ghost movie? Have you seen it?
Not yet, no. I've heard of
It
it.
probably bless you since you like the guitar. Because a real key guy in that was, the basis of that whole movie is what would a day look like if you just decided to go take me where you want to take me. Because these guys had a camera crew and probably an unlimited budget. But one of the guys played the guitar. And one place where they end up getting to go is inside a Hindu temple in India.
Jake Hamilton, have you heard his stuff? He's one of the ones on my Small Warfare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the Christians that are in that area working on this, you don't understand this, you could get killed for doing this.
Yeah, I can believe that.
They don't let unbelievers in there, and they don't let Christians in there. And anyways, he's just walking through that place, just strumming his guitar, just singing a song about Jesus. And I thought, man, you can even feel it in that movie. I thought, wow, every demon in there was quaking.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy that invited him in there was the high priest, right, in the temple.
Yeah.
And he kept wanting him to play.
Yeah, but here's the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
They call him the gatekeeper. But you can feel it in the movie, what's going on in the spirit, and those guys are so protective. The guys that oh man, don't bless you.
I just try to know that enemy territory and scatter them.
They were even not doing
Hindu temple. They said a foreigner had never been allowed in there.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for us to watch things like that. That people, to me, they are past the cutting edge. They've jumped off the cliff, and they're just following the Holy Spirit. And God totally protected them, and it showed him. He would go out, he was walking around, I don't know if he was in Calcutta or wherever he was, and he'd end up on the steps of somewhere, and he'd start playing his guitar, and then of course he had a buddy with him. And of course mobs of people would just come, and what caught my attention was it was all these young men. And I can remember Cody telling me when he was in Saudi Arabia how, he said what stood out to him over there was, he said, there's all these unemployed young men that are just hanging around. And I thought, well, no wonder they end up, being ISIS or, whatever. But anyways, in this movie, it shows it's all these young men. There's more, you don't see a lot of women. It's all these young men, and they just start throwing, and they like the music, and they're clapping, and they're going, and then little by little, you see the authorities come and kind of break it up and move them on. I thought, wow, what one guy with a guitar. It just has the anointing like David on it, just walking around, The guy that plays the guitar at our church, I told him, I said, I want you to watch that movie, and then you and I are going to team up, and we're going to go to some parks in downtown Tucson, and just take it to the street. See what God does, when the anointing falls, just see what God does.
Like playing in a joke.
Yeah.
They would, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of like, that's what I am. I told Sherri I'm kind of a, you know how they talk on the news anymore about real time? You know, this is happening in real time. And I think that's where we are with God. We're just in real time. He's doing stuff and we get to get in on it, and we're not. And I just wanted to say I am really, really humbled just to be here with you guys, because I know you have to be kind of crazy and radical like I am. And right now there aren't a whole lot of us, you know. Sherri, I just felt like if there's something the Lord was saying to you tonight, it was saying, do not despise the days of small beginnings.
I always get that.
I know, we got that for 14 years, so it never makes you happy. But you can be sure. What was that one song we were singing? The first one about faith without, you know, let me walk among, give me faith without borders.
Oceans.
And there was a phrase in there that talked about how he's building our faith in his presence. And I just felt like the Lord wanted me to encourage all you guys, you're in a really safe place. Because Jesus is the one that's growing you. And as long as you keep submitting to him, and the enemy's not going to get by. He may try some things, but he's not going to get by with anything in your life. As long as you continue. You know, it's like I saw all of you just at his feet worshiping you, worshiping him. And I mean, there's no safer place to be. Then there's just no safer place to be. I felt like he just wanted me to encourage you that you guys are in such a safe place. You know, and don't ever look around and see how many are here. I can tell you that where I'm at, we have spent 14 years doing that, and all that will do is discourage you, because the American mindset is bigger is better, right? Or you must not be doing something right if there's not a lot of people here or something. And I think God's just working. I heard Chuck Pierce say the other day, God is just building teams. And he said a good team really is about 12 people. Well, somebody else had a team of 12 people, right?
Yeah.
And so we're in good company. But don't ever, if there's one thing I could tell. I went with my pastor from Deming to start a new work in Tucson. God said he wanted to do a new thing. And he kept telling us, all you need is me, all you need is me. And we spent 14 years going, well, yeah, but, we think we need this, we think we need that. And so far, all we have is him. So when God wants to do a new thing, I mean, he means what he says. I heard someone say a while back, you know, how we hear we had so many people come through and go, you're in transition. I thought, man, if I hear that one more time, I'm going to scream, transition. And finally, I heard Chuck Pierce say, transition is the amount of time it takes. He said, God's already moved. He's already shifted. Transition is about us. It's how long it takes us to get it. So, oh, man. So, to me, that means we can speed it up, right? So probably you guys that are younger and haven't been in religion or in church a long time, I mean, just go with it. You know, you don't have any old paradigms that you have to get rid of. Because I know, like my pastor, he kept saying he knew what it wasn't, but he didn't know what it is. So there you are, you know. Alrighty, so we just get together and worship God. We just get together and worship God, which is what I think Heidi Baker found out, and Randy Clark and Bill Johnson, if all of you guys are familiar with them. They were in Tucson about 2 weeks ago. They were there for 5 days. They did a healing thing. And I got to go. And I tell you what, I was so glad I got to go, because these guys, you know, they all have worldwide ministries, and they're just simple, everyday people. They are just everyday people. And Randy Clark, even after all these years, he said all he does is just go on the first impression he hears. You know, and I thought, wow, God built a worldwide ministry on this guy that loves to see people healed, just going on his first impression. That's all he goes on. That's all he still goes on. And I thought, we can do that, you know? And I think there's something about the American mindset. I've heard Heidi Baker say that. She goes, I hate to come to America because you guys put me on the stage and you make me look big. You make me look like I'm a star. And she goes, I am just a little woman. I'm just a little woman. And she showed videos of, like when she's in Africa, and all she's doing is hanging out with the village women, helping them make the bed, wiping the cereal off the kids' faces. She's just a little woman. And I think we need to get that in America. You don't have to have a stage, you don't have to be a pastor, you don't have to be on TV. I don't know if you guys have heard of Bob Jones or not, but he's accredited with probably having the most influence on like major leaders that are on the cutting edge in America and even in a lot of places in the world. They said he was never on TV until late in his life. He never wrote a book, never pastored a church. God just arranged divine appointments for him. And he got to go to heaven a lot too. He had these amazing, I'm always going, what is that these people get to do that? So my faith is for that, some of that stuff, But anyways, I guess I'm just here just to tell you, do not bite into the American idea that you have to be famous. You have to have a stage or something. But anyways, I was asking God if he had a word for you guys. And what he told me to tell you was it was time to go higher. And I think what that means is in your expectations of, Sherri and I were talking about, Bill Johnson always talks about Jesus had a one-step plan, out of darkness into light. And that's another thing, that we've learned in our churches too. Well, if somebody comes out of drugs and alcohol, let's put them in a 5-year program, they need counseling, blah, blah, blah. And I think we've been kind of conditioned to think some things like that. And the deal is maybe in the past that wasn't wrong, or, God let us work with that. But we don't have time for that anymore. We just don't. We just don't. And I felt like even tomorrow, if we go on treasure hunts, I felt like God said, expect it, expect. Just expect to see people get healed. Just expect to see people get delivered out of darkness into we need to raise the bar on what our expectation is, not go with any past mindsets or anything we've had. I listened to Chuck Pierce on Glory of Zion a lot. Do any of you guys follow him very much? Mm-hmm. But I was listening, I listen to them all the time. And Linda Heidler, she was sharing that a lot of times, if you listen to their prayer, what they prayed, you see on the news the next day. They've been very, very, very instrumental in praying for Israel and like when those tunnels were exposed and everything. And she was sharing that, she said right now though, she said it's a different kind of war because the terrorists are driving buses into libraries. It's not like they're just out to terrorize, destroy, kill. And as I was listening to that, I thought, why, if they're getting so bold, why would we hold back? Why in the world would we hold back if that kind of thing is going on? I want to share with you too, I think there's a lot of things, I hope I can bring this together because I really feel like, the election we just had, things that are going on in the world, God calling us to be the light of the world, I think it all comes together. Personally, I think the revivalists in America are the key to America's success, whether we live or die in the next 2 years. I really do believe that we have a window of time to turn things around. And we are, and I don't know what that turnaround will look like because I get it that we're in the last days. I get that, But I think God wants us to give it our best shot, And I think the hope of that is in our hands. It's in the hands of the church because America was birthed in the hands of the church. I don't know if I never knew Christian history or what God had to do with America until I homeschooled my kids. I wasn't taught that when I was in school. And I'm 66 years old, so I know all that's been taken out of public school for a long, long time. But when I was homeschooling my kids, I was able to get my hands on a lot of books that taught the true history of America. And it used to be taught in public school that America was birthed in the First Great Awakening. who was the guy that said, or Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Who would say something like that? Except a born-again Christian that had gotten free on the inside. And God knew that unless people were free in their hearts and knew how to submit to the Lord, how in the world could you live together as a free nation and submit to one another? That's just a principle. And, you know, I guess I can't stress that enough. If people don't get that or understand that, I mean, when I realized that America was God's idea, that changed my life. I thought, oh my gosh. Because when I first got Spirit-filled and became a Christian, a scripture that the Lord kept giving me was Jesus Christ, the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I'm just a really practical person. I said, God, I would just really like to see something that you've done. 'Cause to me, the Bible was just a dusty old book, and the people didn't dress like I did, and I didn't connect with it really well. And that was one of the things he brought to me was Christian history. And I thought, oh my gosh, it changed my life. And I brought something here I wanted to read to you. I got this book. It was written by a lady. It was funded during the Bicentennial Commission. I think that was like 1976. And she went to the National Archives, and she came up, I mean, these are real writings from the Pilgrims, George Washington, all these people. And her thing was to expose to all of us how deep our Christian roots were, that we really would not exist if it was not for the gospel of Jesus Christ. And her plan was to get it into public schools. And of course, they wouldn't put it in the public schools because they said we've had separation of church and state. But if you ever want to read a book that will just blow your mind, it's called Celebrations of a Nation. You can get it on Amazon.com for about $2.50. But what I wanted to share with you guys here was, in the very back of it, they recorded a visitation that George Washington had with an angel. And it's when he was in Valley Forge, and it was the deepest, darkest hour of his life. He didn't think he was going to make it, and he didn't think we were going to make it. And it says that he went to his tent, and he felt, I just want to read this to you really quick, because I just think this kind of summarizes what God has to say about America. Anyways, it says, returning just after dusk, George Washington dispatched an orderly to the quarters of an officer who was presently in attendance. After a preliminary conversation, which lasted about half an hour, Washington, gazing upon his companion with that same strange look of dignity which he alone could command, said, I do not know whether it is owing to the anxiety of my mind or what. He starts to tell this guy what happened. He goes, I don't know if I've been really in such depression and all, did this really happen or did this not happen? But anyways, he goes to say, I felt a strange sensation spreading through me. And he says he felt this presence in his tent. He said, I would have risen, but the riveted gaze of the being before me rendered that impossible. I could not speak. Even though itself became paralyzed, a new influence, mysterious, irresistible, took possession of me. All I could do was gaze steadily at my unknown visitor. Gradually, the surrounding atmosphere seemed as though becoming filled with sensations. Everything about me seemed unusual. The mysterious visitor also seemed airy. I began to feel as if I was dying. He says, presently I heard a voice saying, Son of the Republic, look and learn. And this angel gave him an open vision of the Revolutionary War. He gave him an open vision of the Civil War. He gave him an open vision of World War I and World War II. And he told him at the end of the vision, and I thought, wow, I mean, here you are in Valley Forge, you think you're about to die, and an angel shows up and shows you future wars. I hope that was encouraging to George Washington. I thought, wow, would you really want to see future wars? But anyways, it certainly showed him that God had a plan for America, and it went way, 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 way beyond where he was. And then he said, and this is what the angel said to him, and this really caught my attention. I hadn't read this for quite a while, but I thought, this is hope for us. This angel said to George Washington, while the stars remain in the sky and the heavens send down dew upon the earth, so long shall this republic last. And taking from his brow the crown on which was blazoned the word Union, he placed it upon the standard, while the people kneeling down said, Amen. And then he said to George Washington, Son of the Republic, what you have seen is this: 3 perils shall come upon the Republic. The most fearful for her is the second. Let every child of the Republic learn to live for God and love this union. But I thought that was real interesting. He said, to me, he was saying, as long as the stars are in the sky and the heavens remain, this Republic will not perish. I find that very encouraging. You know, but anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. If you guys have any doubts or wondering, you know, are we a Christian nation? I was just going to share with you real quickly too, the kind of, a friend shared a story with me the other day that I just thought, well, this is, to me, I think it's just really relevant with where we're living today. But I don't know if you all remember when Gabrielle Giffords was shot in that parking lot in Tucson, Arizona. She's our senator. And what had happened, she was doing...
Kids, no going in and out of the door anymore, okay? Because it's distracting. Thank you. Sorry.
She was doing a meet and greet in a parking lot at a Safeway store. And a really good friend of mine just lives around the corner, and she was sharing this story with me the other day. She said she went to the store the day that Gabrielle Giffords was out in the parking lot doing this meet and greet, and she said the thing that struck her most was, wow, she looks like a target. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And she thought right away it'd be easy for somebody to shoot her. And I said, well, why did you say that? And she said, well, all the Secret Service men and all her staff and everything, they were there in dark gray and black and everything. And there's Gabrielle Giffords in red. So like a bullseye. And she said that thought just went through my mind really fast. So she goes on into the grocery store. She gets her items, and when she's checking out, the killer, the guy that shot Gabrielle Giffords, is in line next to her. And he walked in and got, you know, she knows this later. She didn't know that then. But she said he was buying just a can of, one of those power drinks. And she looked at him and she goes, well, I have several things you can get in front of me if you want. And she said he kind of stood out to her because he was kind of rude and just sort of dark, and he had this big old jacket on. Well, later on, all the news and everything, we figured out he had these big old pockets and he had all these guns and this ammunition in his jacket. And also he had gotten a taxi cab driver to bring him to the grocery store. And the reason he ran into the store and bought this drink first was he said he needed to use his debit card to get some cash back to pay the taxi driver. So that's kind of the scene that we know that was going on. And then they said after he paid the taxi driver, he went back into the grocery store to the bathroom to load his guns. So my friend, once he checks out in front of her, she goes ahead and checks out. And she said as she gets to the door, and she's just getting her groceries out of the grocery cart, she said she hears this voice say, run, run, as fast as you can, get in your car and leave. And she said, Nancy, I could not have obeyed that voice. She said, there wasn't anything in me saying, is this God? And she said, she goes, I ran like a crazy woman. She said, I didn't care if somebody saw me or what, but she said, I don't even jog. She said, I just took off running. And she was parked 3 cars back from the entrance of the store, right where the shooting took place. She said she got in her car and she drives out the parking lot, and as she's driving away, she hears pow, 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 pow. I think 5 people were killed in that. And what that said to me was, God protected her, and she could not have even stayed there had she wanted. I mean, who does that except God? You know? That she said, I didn't even reason. She said, I just took off running and got in my car. And I thought, wow, I just felt I needed to share that with you guys, because I think in the day we live in, that things like that could happen again and again. But God, she said, nothing in me could have made me stay where I was. She said, I wasn't afraid, something just exploded in me that said run, and I ran. And about 2 or 3 days later, I guess, the FBI come to her house, because there's all the surveillance cameras, around in the parking lot, and they asked her, why did you take off running? And they knew her story. They thought maybe the guy in line had scared her, and she goes, do you know who the Holy Spirit is? And these 2 FBI guys are standing there looking at her, and she goes, he just told me to run, and I could not do anything but run. I just thought that was, and they go, oh, okay. You wonder how many stories they get like that, though. I bet they get a lot.
Yeah.
So anyways, I just had to share that with you, because I just thought, I think God wants us to be encouraged. He does not want us to be afraid. He wants us to know He's for us. And He also wants us to know we have a job to do. And the deal is if we don't do it, it's not going to get done. The other day I had a vision, and I saw myself sitting on the couch. I was just kind of leaning back, sort of in a very resting, relaxing position. And it was like I saw, I don't know, it was Jesus or the Holy Spirit. Somebody walked up to me and looked at me and said, just because you don't think you're ready doesn't mean you're not. And the time demands it. And I think there really is an urgency to, you guys, it's no longer about us. It's about them. It's about the harvest. I think it's about a lot of things. We probably can't even begin to grasp how important it is. Like that scripture you shared, Sherri, about when the sons and daughters of God are revealed. The whole earth is groaning for us to be revealed. And I felt like the Lord just gave me 2 scriptures for you. One, I would be amazed if you haven't been getting this again and again and again. Isaiah 60. Arise from the depression and prostration in which circumstances have kept you. And I think what a nice clue there. You guys, if it's just circumstances, we can rise out of that stuff, right? It's nothing permanent. Arise from the depression and prostration in which circumstances have kept you. Rise to a new life. This is the Amplified. Shine. And shine means be radiant with the glory of the Lord. For your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and dense darkness. But the Lord shall rise upon you, and His glory shall be seen on you. Patricia King, a lady that I really, really appreciate, she so much believes God's so much stronger than the devil, and what God's doing is totally always outweighs the devil. But she said, Isaiah 60, she said, we can either make a lot about we can talk a lot about the darkness, or we can talk a lot about the sun rising and shining. And she said, really, in chapter 60, Isaiah 60, she said there's really only one sentence there that talks about the darkness. The rest of it is the good news about what we are out there. So I just wanted to point that out to you in case you've been stupefied by the darkness. Because we are living in a day like we've never seen. Nor could, my generation, there's no way we would have ever thought we would see what we're seeing today. But the flip side of that, I felt like too, during praise and worship, the Lord was saying that there's always so much more of Him. There's always so much more. And He really delights in people that just love to push the envelope and say, really? How much more? Because once you think you stepped into a new more, there's still more. And all we have to do is get out there and take the risk of whether it's something God's wanting us to do personally, or if it's something He's wanting us to say or do or speak to other people. And then He gave me, Matthew 5:16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your moral excellence and your praiseworthy, noble and good deeds, and recognize and honor and praise and glorify your Father who is in heaven. And I felt like what He was emphasizing here was, He said, let your light shine. All of us have different personalities. All of us are going to do it different ways. But God made each of us just the way we are. And He likes you very much, just the way you are. So you're not supposed to look like me or act like me. You get to be you. God made you because He wants you. He didn't want another Nancy. He wants you out there being like you are. I think that's real significant. So often when I try to copy people. Kind of jumping around here a little bit, but one thing I did want to share with you is Dutch Sheets. I've seen him on TV and stuff, and he's going around with this flag and appeal to heaven. And this was